The email arrived at 8:41 a.m., between a calendar reminder and a spam alert about discounted office chairs. I read it twice because it didn't sound like something meant for a person. It sounded like something generated to clear a queue. Very effective immediately. Please pack your desk by end of day. HR will coordinate next steps. No meeting. No voice. No thanks. The phrase that stayed with me, dead weight, appeared once, tucked into a justification paragraph that tried to sound economic instead of personal. It failed. I closed the laptop and sat there longer than necessary, not stunned so much as recalibrating. 18 years trains you to expect a certain gravity. Even bad news is usually given weight. This was light, disposable. The office didn't change. The lights hummed the same. Someone laughed too loudly down the hall. I watched my hands for a moment, noticing how calm they were. At 50, calm can look like weakness to people who mistake noise for relevance. I packed slowly, not ceremonially, just carefully. A notebook with early sketches. A chipped mug from a conference I no longer remembered attending. I didn't look at the patent documents in my drawer. I didn't need to. I knew where they were in my head. No one stopped me. That might have been the sharpest cut. Not cruelty, absence. I signed the exit form, nodded at security, and walked out with a box that felt lighter than it should have. At home, I put the box down and didn't open it. I made tea. I sat by the window. I tried to decide whether what I felt was loss or embarrassment. It hovered somewhere in between, unresolved. The call came at 9:17 p.m., an unfamiliar number. I almost let it ring out. Curiosity 1, Mr. Hale. The voice was careful. Male. Practiced. This is Martin Levy. I'm calling on behalf of counsel involved in the Apex North Shore merger. I waited. There appears to be a complication. He continued, as if easing into cold water. Your name came up in our diligence review. That was when the day shifted. Not dramatically, not with a jolt. More like a quiet click, the sound a lock makes when it finally turns. He explained. The merger hinged on a process optimization patent, one I had filed years ago, back when the company still let engineers own what they built unless explicitly reassigned. Legal housekeeping had been incomplete. Without my consent, the transfer stalled. Without the transfer, the merger could not close. It's $180 million, he said, unnecessarily. Numbers always sound smaller when spoken aloud. I thanked him for explaining and told him I would call back. The second call came before I had time to finish my tea. This time the tone had shifted, less procedural, more human. A woman now. Senior, I guessed. She asked how I was doing. I almost laughed. I was terminated this morning, I said. By email? A pause. Not the polite kind. The kind where someone is doing math they didn't expect to do tonight. I see, she said finally. That complicates things. I smiled then, not because I felt triumphant, because I felt located. For the first time all day, I was standing somewhere solid. I'm not trying to complicate anything, I said. But I'm not rushing to simplify it either. She asked what I wanted. It was a reasonable question. I didn't have an answer ready, which surprised me. I'd imagined, abstractly, that if this moment ever came, I would know exactly what to demand. But the truth was quieter. I want a conversation, I said. With the CEO. Directly. Another pause. Shorter this time. I'll see what I can do. The call from him came the next morning. Earlier than business hours. That told me more than his words. He sounded older than I remembered. Or maybe just less buffered. I hear there's an issue, he said, skipping pleasantries. One we need to resolve quickly. I didn't correct him. I let the framing stand. I was surprised to hear from your lawyers, I said, given how our last communication went. Yes, he said, about that. The email was handled poorly. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't nothing either. It hovered in the middle, unsure of its footing. He talked about synergies, about timelines, about how everyone was under pressure. I listened the way I used to in meetings, patient, attentive, noncommittal. When he finished, there was a silence he hadn't planned for. I'm not interested in being rehired, I said finally. And I'm not interested in blocking your merger out of spite. What are you interested in? He asked. Being addressed properly, I said. and being compensated for what I built now that it matters again. Another silence. Longer. He cleared his throat. We can discuss terms. Good, I said. Then, we can discuss consent. By the end of the week, the lawyers had their paperwork. The board had their resolution. The merger moved forward. I did not attend the closing dinner. I did not receive a congratulatory email. I did receive a transfer confirmation that was precise, respectful, and irrevocable. People ask me sometimes if it felt good, if I enjoyed watching them scramble, if I smiled when he realized he needed me. I tell them the truth. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like alignment. They had decided I was finished. They were wrong, not about my job, but about my weight. Some leverage doesn't announce itself. It accumulates quietly, over years of doing the work when no one is watching. It waits. And when it appears, it doesn't shout. It just asks to be acknowledged.